Hi everyone, Alan Bauer here in Bay City, Michigan. And you may notice I have my Marine Corps hat on today, and there's a reason for that. What I want to talk to you today is about the military's policy that recently came out about hemp and CBD products, hemp-derived CBD products. And I'm really kind of shocked on this because I saw this article out there and I thought, oh, this has to be one of these sites that are just pulling it up, because they reference an old 2017 article. So I went to the Navy Times, Marine Corps Times, Army Times, started looking at the directives, and it wasn't a rehash of an old article. Actually, it was a new policy, and I'm just going to use the Navy one here because the Marine Corps was part of the Department of the Navy. So the Navy release on hemp policy, and this is from Washington. It says Department of the Navy continues to direct sailors and Marines not to use hemp-derived products in a message release on August 7th, and that's this year, 2019. This was actually dated August 7th, 2019. It was released at 11:21 a.m. And it's the reference number on this is all nav, which is for all Navy, 057/19. And it references and relates current Department of Navy policy, SecNavist 5300.28F, as in Foxtrot, regarding substance abuse. And it establishes a prohibition and use of ingestion, consumption, or application of cannabinoid formulations made or derived from hemp or marijuana. Now, I understand the marijuana part, but the hemp, come on. I was really shocked on this, and I said, don't they realize that President Donald Trump had signed the 2018 Farm Bill Act back in December? And of course they did. They released it right here. It says December 20th, 2018, President Donald J. Trump signed into law the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, commonly known as the 2018 Farm Bill. This includes legislation allowing hemp cultivation and transfer of hemp-derived products across state lines. The legislation defines hemp as cannabis plant that contains no more than 0.3% of tetrahydrocannabinoid, or THC, the chemical compound in cannabis associated with psychoactive effects. I mean, that's what gets you high, basically. With the passage of this legislation, hemp-derived products, including cannabidiol, CBD, have become widely available. And I thought all this stuff was over before. I remember we got into CBD. I actually got into it back in 2014. Right after the 2014 Farm Bill Act, I came back. I lived overseas for 10 years. I worked in Iraq, Afghanistan, and over in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. I supported Marine recon units there. I worked as a contractor at that time after I got out of the Marine Corps, but I worked as a contractor, supported Marine recon, U.S. Special Forces, and then I supported Air Force Office of Special Investigation, or Air Force OSI, when I was over in Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. I worked as an 0211 when I was in the Marine Corps, counterintelligence agent. And there were some gray areas in the 2014 Farm Bill Act, and here in Michigan too. We had the Michigan Industrial Hemp Research Act of 2014 that was sponsored by Kevin Daly, who's a state senator now. He was a state representative at the time. So that pretty much legalized everything as far as I was concerned, but there were some gray areas, and we had to go through a little legal battle with Lara here in Michigan, but we got over that. We were shut down for about 11 days. We moved past that, reached out to our state rep at the time. He wanted nothing to do with it. Now he seems to be on board with the hemp now that it's popular. But with this here, once the 2018 Farm Bill Act was passed, that was initiated by Senator Mitch McConnell, Republican out of Kentucky, Republican senator. And then President Trump signed it into legislation, and all of a sudden, boom, CBD became legal everywhere in the 50 states and all the U.S. territories, and we haven't had any issues. I thought we were way beyond this. There's like a little couple counties here in Alabama here or there but then they rolled over on the laws after that, and all the states got on board with it too. And I thought we were done with this, like over with it. In fact, even some of the Marines I know at the Marine Corps base in Camp Pendleton, they said that the base general at the time had released a directive. This was back in 2018, that said they just didn't want full spectrum. They wanted something with zero THC back then. This is before the Farm Bill Act was signed. And so he said, as long as it's isolate, you can bring it on the base. So I thought everything was still like that, but apparently not. And then the really strange thing here, like I'm going to go down this a little bit more, but they said Navy policy has not been affected by the passage of the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, and all products derived from hemp or marijuana are still prohibited. While currently deemed legal for civilians in some states, not some states, it's all states. So they're wrong on that too when they wrote this. All hemp and CBD products are strictly prohibited for use by sailors. Now, funny, they didn't mention Marines in there, but the initial directive did say sailors and Marines. So I don't know, maybe Marines are prohibited. Depends. There's a little loophole here, maybe, guys. No, I'm not telling you to do it. But last time I checked, the President Trump was the commander-in-chief, who's also head of the military forces, and he signed the 2018 Farm Bill Act, which legalized CBD, hemp-derived CBD, all throughout the United States. Now all these military commanders, and I'm just reading the Navy one, the Air Force released one, the Navy, the Army, everybody released this. It's like they're all on board with it, and they are like way out of touch. And, I love the active duty military. I love the veterans. I'm a vet myself. I worked with them after, even when I contracted. I mean, that's my passion, man, as veterans, people that served, love them all. But these leaders here are way out of line. I mean, totally off base on this. It's not like they haven't done this before, Military leaders have screwed up before, and they need to be held accountable. Because back in when I was stationed at Camp Lejeune in the early 80s, we had the Camp Lejeune water poisoning thing that I keep getting the letters on. And there's a lot of people that have had cancer, things like that, birth defects in their kids. I was lucky. I never had anything affect me on that. But a lot of people did. There's people that died or had, problems with having kids, birth defects, miscarriages, things like that. The thing was, they knew about this years before, and they did not release that the water was poisoned. And we lived on base housing in Tarawa Terrace at the time, and they let us keep drinking this out at the rifle range, the water out there. I mean, if you were in the Marine Corps, you know what I'm talking about. You're stationed at Camp Lejeune, you drank the poison water, you're on a list now, and then they're finally just recognizing this, after years. And there was another thing too, like when we were deployed in the Philippines when I was in the Marine Corps. They gave us this anti-malaria medication. It turns out to be, this causes psychosis in some people. That's okay to do that. And they knew about this, and they let that go on for a while. And what really gets me about this is, there's a lot of people that I worked with, myself included. We've all been deployed to combat zones. We spent years over in combat zones. We've gone through a lot of stuff over there. And what's really helping a lot of these veterans is the CBD. And I'm very passionate about this because, there's a lot of suicides among veterans. And actually had a guy in my unit that committed suicide, and I know a couple other people that have. So this is where I really have a problem with these military leaders coming out with these directives banning CBD. It's like, it's okay to put them on these psychotropic drugs and these antidepressants and all this other stuff, but God forbid we give them something natural that may actually help them and stop them from committing suicide and get their life back together. I got some real issues with it. I'm very passionate about this. Somebody needs to step in on here. President Trump signed this bill. It's legal, but just because, they're still in this reefer madness mindset here, and then they're talking about, I'm not going to read this whole thing here, but they're talking about, that they do the test for THC and everything. I got drug tested all the time when I was in. It seemed like every month, every 2 months. I had a top secret TSSCI clearance. We got drug tested all the time. had no issues with it. I'm just glad I'm not in today, because I can't imagine, not having my CBD, which really helps me, really turned my life around, get my act back together after those years in the combat zones working there. And then you're going to tell me that I can't have CBD? And they're talking about actually discharging people with other than honorable discharge. I mean, that's like saying you're a disgrace. So here's all these guys, women, everybody that served in these combat zones, they have some issues, and this is something, CBD is really something that can help these people out, help these veterans and these active duty military people out. It can't get them high, but we can sell cigarettes on base. We can sell alcohol on base, let them drink that, give them all the drugs that they want, the prescription drugs, put them on opioids before, they finally cut back on that. But CBD, something natural you can't even get high off, and they're going to threaten people's careers on it. I have a real issue with this. This needs to be changed. I think this too shall pass, just like everything else. But it just really, really upsets me to see this, that some people are going to be kicked out of the military because they're using CBD to help them, maybe so they don't commit suicide or have a lot of these issues. So this is something I'm passionate about. I just want to get this out there and share it. Share it with all your friends, all your military friends, all the other people you know. Let your politicians know about this. Let your senators and state representatives know. Write letters to President Trump on this. Let him know about this. Hey, this is something, these guys aren't getting high off this. It's just helping them out, and we're going to throw people out of the military other than honorable discharge, and then it can affect your gun rights, your voting rights, federal employment, veterans benefits, all that. This is just absolutely nuts. So I just had to get that out today. I kept it clean. My initial reaction when I saw this, I was more Marine speak, probably, which wasn't as pretty, but I wanted to keep everything clean here. Just had to get this out here. So share this, let people know. Definitely wrong, and it needs to be changed. Thanks.